The quote framework I developed, and the reason that I developed it was data problems are ultimately people problems. And a lot of people who input data are not data professionals. They don't understand the importance of clean data. They just like, oh, this is part of my job. I just have to do it. I don't care.
Mhm.
So I wanted to come up with something that was a bit fun, that was memorable, but was also important and relevant.
Mhm.
So the data quote is basically C is for consistent data. So whether that is the processes that you're using, how you input the data, the data points that you need to input to defining a standard date format, units of measure, because some people use miles, some use kilometers, stones and pounds. Defining all those things, even terminology within your organization, like what is a customer? Because in different areas, it's different things. So get that data consistent. Also organize it. So that's what the O is. And that it means whether that's classification or categorization of your data, or organizing it so that you can pull information very quickly from a region or a business unit or a person, a buyer, a team member, or if you want to look at it globally. If you have it organized properly, then it's really easy to access that information quickly. Then, of course, we need accurate data, but you
Mhm.
need to define what accurate is within your team, because, in finance, the numbers have to be 100% accurate. There's no tolerance for something to be wrong. But in sales and marketing, it might be making sure you put your right forecasting numbers in, or your right sales numbers, or collecting the right information about a potential client. So once you have that
No.
consistent, organized, and accurate data, guess what? It's trustworthy. And,
Mhm.
that is the biggest problem with data in organizations. People don't trust it. And so
Yeah.
that is, by having consistent, organized, and accurate data, that will help get you there. So that
Yeah.
is the data code.
Got it. So you did mention that it would make it a bit more fun to put it in a format like this. Do you find
Yeah.
that businesses find that data cleaning and stuff like that, it's more of a chore than anything that's really
Oh, yeah.
necessary to do?
It is a hugely undervalued skill and task. People just assume anyone can do it. And yes, anyone can do it, but not everybody can do it well. And there's a huge difference. And knowing when to outsource or upskill your staff, versus just giving it to an intern or a temp for a few weeks is the difference between potentially between making or losing money in your organization, because having the right data is more critical than ever. Everyone is making cost cuts. People want it. It's not just about that. It could be about fraud prevention. It could be making sure your
Mhm.
staff are being efficient, not wasting time on things that could be done by somebody far quicker, on a project basis, working more efficiently, increasing your profitability, just making people's jobs easier as well.
Yeah.
So there's a whole range of things.
Yeah. Well, what point do you find, maybe in your experience, that businesses start thinking about things like this, about cleaning their data and maintaining it? Or is it that they need to be reminded by something going wrong for them to actually do something about it?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you exactly when they realize they need our services, and that is when it has gone really, really wrong, and they need to
Mhm.
fix it quickly. Outside of that, it is very hard to get budget or funding to clean data
Mm.
without a reason,
Mm.
because a lot of time people just or the decision makers just don't see the value in it. They want something tangible,
Right.
but of course you don't see the tangible benefits of that until after you've cleaned the data, so it's a very hard
Yeah.
sell.
Have you tried, have you helped people convince decision makers to make that sell? Or, like how does one have to communicate with them that this needs to be prevented in the first place? Or it seems like a
I
difficult thing to do.
LinkedIn, I talk at events, I do webinars, I do podcasts. And I don't just stick to procurement is my kind of base where most of my clients come from, but I talk on finance podcasts, I talk on data podcasts because this is an everything issue. This is not
Mhm.
specifically for one area. And the more I can get myself out there and spread that message, then hopefully it'll start to sink in. I mean, I meet so many people who would love to get me in and help
Mhm.
me and my team and help them out, but they know they don't have any money to do that. So
Right.
it's frustrating,
Yeah.
but it's okay, just wait till it goes wrong and then give me a call,
Mhm.
then we can help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm
of
sure
course,
it's
at that point, it's always more expensive because it's a bigger mess to
Mhm.
solve.
Yeah. Yeah. So money is definitely a part of it. Do you think, how about like the time spent upfront? Uh, is it a lot of
Yeah,
time? I think. Mhm.
I don't think senior management realize how much time is being spent cleaning data or fixing
Mhm.
data because it's not right or trying to join things together. It's an issue, and people aren't measuring the impact of that on the business because it's not just delays on projects, it's costs, it's time, it's other things being sidelined and neglected. There's
Yeah.
such a wider knock-on effect to that. Or, our people are having to work over weekends to get their jobs done and
Right.
not telling
Yeah.
people, not telling anyone.
I did read quite a few articles slash surveys that talked about the part of the job that data scientists are most frustrated with is the part,
Hmm.
at least apparently they spend around 70% of their time maintaining data and not actually.
Yeah, and how
Uh,
many years have we heard this, and why has it
right.
not changed?
Yeah. Mm. Uh,
But I mean, it keeps
have
us
you?
busy, so I can't complain too much.
Right. Yeah. Um, so, how would you guide a company or an organization that wants to set up these processes? They finally come around to it. Like, what are the first steps that they should take?
Don't just look at the immediate problem or issue that you've got. You need to think bigger and longer term. So if you're cleaning your data now, like what might you need in the future that you're not using right now? And that could
Mhm.
be people's names, it could be contact information, it could be addresses, it could be uh, part numbers, it could be weather information or geolocation data. You might think it's not important now, but it could be in a year's time. So have a think about what's coming up, what you need for the longer term, and work on that instead.
Yeah, definitely. Do you find that different industries have different needs when it comes to data governance, or can they use a similar basic framework and just go from there?
I think if you're really top level, no, ultimately it comes down to the people who are inputting the data and their motivation to have it keep it
Mhm.
clean and be organized, and it doesn't really matter what. I mean, we work across all different industries and ultimately the issues are always the same. The data might look different, but how we fix it is is the same.
I want to talk about your work as well. So
Yeah.
how did you come into this line of work? Where did you find that need that you want to fill?
Yeah, it was a complete accident. I had a first business which shut down and I desperately needed a job. And so I went online and found an ad for a spend analytics company. They were looking for someone to classify spend data. And I thought, well, you know what? I've worked for big companies. I know what they're buying. So yeah, I can do that.
Mhm. Got it.
And then that's really where I found my love for data and categorizing and classifying and organizing it and tidying it and cleaning it. And it didn't feel like a job. I just loved it. Yeah. And like I've sat
Hmm.
today, you know, I run a business and have a team, but I've been sitting today normalizing suppliers and I've loved it. I'm quite just as
Hmm.
happy doing that as I am going and meetings, to events, speaking at things. Um, I still love the basic hands-on part of the job as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's awesome. I mean, to love what you do, and
It helps
I'm
a
sure it,
lot.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure it gets almost meditative once you said you like the hands-on part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, also it
Yeah.
depends. Some of the data sets are better than others. Today I've been translating a lot of different languages from Chinese to Hungarian to Russian. So not only do you have the battle of translating it, but then cleaning it up and trying to make sense of it, because, you know, translate
Mhm.
doesn't always make sense of it.
Right. Yeah. Do you use like Google Translate and things like that,
Oh
or
yeah,
are there other? Yeah.
yeah.
Have you had any experience using AI to with your work? Has that?
We we tested it out a while ago now, and it just wasn't for the type of work that we do. It's not there. There are a lot of
Mhm.
areas and industries and instances where AI will 100% improve processes and make things easier.
Mhm.
But we're in a very niche area that is very subjective and contextual, and it's really hard to get AI to be able to understand that. I think if we worked in one industry or for one
Mhm.
company, then it would be easier to build something or work with something. But because every week we're working with different clients, different countries, different industries and
Got it.
companies, it's too broad and vague for us to be able to do something.
Hmm. Yeah. If you had, if AI was sort of able to work for you, what part of the job would you want it help with the most? Like which part might be the most time consuming or something like
I
that?
think when it comes to the work we do, it's with classification, it's things like we have to search for a lot of like medical products and chemicals and reagents, and getting help with that would be good. And then on the normalization side, yes, some of the translation, if that could be done, that would be helpful. And there might be opportunities to try that out. You know, we're not saying no. Um, but yeah, some of it is just, and the problem really is not the data itself, but the mess it's in, and it's a bit
Mhm.
too complicated for tech to
Mhm.
understand right now. Like I like to think of the TCG team as like the foundation, so we get the data ready
Mhm.
to be used in AI,
Mhm.
because it's
Oh,
got to learn from clean data, and someone's got to get that data
right.
clean. So that's us.
Right. Got it. So the TCG team, what
That's the
is that?
classification guru.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, uh, oh, sorry. I had a question in mind, but I think I sort of lost it.
Uh,
I was wondering about how you work with the data scientists. Do you have, so when you're working with a client, perhaps, do you come in touch with their data scientists, and how does that communication look
Not so much in our work, because we're working with procurement a lot, so they are
like?
not necessarily speaking to the data teams in their organization.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, a lot of the procurement people I talk to are actually having to do a lot of the work themselves. So I met somebody recently who's doing 40 hours a month just cleaning data, doing the job of an
Mhm.
analyst, and that's not his job.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we meet a lot of people like that, so we can come in and help improve their processes and make things a bit easier for them.
Mhm.
But you know, even yeah, not don't really come across them, to be honest.
Got it.
I
So
think by
the
the
analyst,
time it gets to the data scientist level, they've already kind of got their data to a place that it needs to be at.
I also think that's not always the case because I came across a social media post recently about a data scientist complaining that the data was all messed up and all the things that they could do, all the results that they got were sort of wrong, and they weren't allowed to go back and clean that messy data. So yeah, I don't know.
Sometimes people are told to leave it and not clean it, and it's crazy, but it happens a lot. Like, because
Right.
what happens is once you start to clean it, you start to find more things that you don't want to know.
I guess it would be frustrating if yeah if you're someone who had to work with that data. Yeah, I think communication, making sure that business leaders get the point becomes all the more important, right?
Yeah. But it's communication too, because a lot of data scientists, I think, struggle in silence. They just get on with it and do it, and they don't actually tell or show evidence of all the work they've had to do to get the finished product.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Um, so you did mention that you work with analysts, uh, procurement specialists.
Yeah.
Do you have a plan in place before you go into conversations with them to understand what they need uh, from you?
Uh, so yeah, the first conversation we have is that kind of start with the end in mind. What is your long term? Think about your long term goals. It's kind of like a bit like a therapist too. I'm like, tell me your problems, and then we listen to their problems to try and figure out how we can help them and what they really need, because sometimes what they need is not what they think they need.
Hmm. Yeah.
Or we might just know, because we work with all kinds of different kind of data and different problems, we have such a broad view of different things to fix. We might just come in with a different idea.